Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Sodo Mojo podcast. This is your site co-expert, Colby Patno, and I'm joined, as always, by site co-expert, Ty Gonzalez. Ty, how you doing today?
Doing pretty well. Looking forward to this podcast.
Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. Just right off the top, guys, we want to acknowledge the accusations made by Dr. Lorena Martin against the Mariners that include misogynistic and racist comments that she claims that she has heard or that were spoken to her. We're not ignoring those comments, and they're very serious allegations, and they need to be investigated thoroughly. However, we are not going to jump into that topic on the website or on the podcast. We simply don't want to speculate on things of a legal nature. So we are going to instead speculate on things of a baseball nature, which is a lot more fun to read. But again, we don't want to dismiss her comments. She is a very credible source. But we also don't want to speculate on what is sure to be a pretty lengthy legal battle. And so we are just going to proceed to business as usual. But again, we just didn't want to pretend that didn't happen. So we're not going to talk about it, but we do acknowledge that it happened, and we understand that these are serious allegations. And so we'll wait and see what the investigation turns up.
Cool.
So on today's podcast, the Mariners have made a little bit of actual baseball news recently, and we're going to dive into that. I guess we'll start with the actual physical piece of baseball news that we report that the Seattle Mariners have signed utility infielder Dylan Moore, who is a career minor leaguer, and yet they've given him a major league contract. Not that the money of that is going to really make a difference. I'm sure it's for a minimum deal. But Ty, who is Dylan Moore, and what does it mean that they gave him a major league contract?
Well, Dylan Moore, he's been with 3 organizations in his career. He's 26 years old. Coming off a pretty good season actually with the Brewers. He started out in Double-A, killed it there at the plate. Hit /373, 429, 639 in 24 games. Went on to Triple-A /280, 280, 346, 492. Plays a bit of everywhere. Very similar to that of Christopher Negron, who the Mariners also have. Plays first, plays second base, even has a game as a pitcher. But yeah, he plays all the infield spots, corner outfield, etc. He isn't very good defensively anywhere except for first base, though. So Fangraphs actually just has him as a first baseman right now. So that may be where he fits. The Mariners are likely to lose some depth at first base with Dan Vogelbach being out of options, and Ryan Healy has some interest on the trade market, so you never know what might happen there. But yeah, he's a utility option. Considering that he seems to be offense first, that's a bit of a different swing from what the Mariners had in Andrew Romine. And anyone familiar with any of my articles, you'll know that I'm not a huge fan of Andrew Romine, or anyone is in their right mind.
Right.
But yeah, so it's a little weird though, because the Mariners have preferred to have defense first players on their bench. So this is kind of a shift from that. But yeah, it's an interesting move. Like you said, it's interesting that he got a major league contract with being a career minor leaguer. But the money should be pretty insignificant. So I don't think he's necessarily guaranteed a spot on the roster. But he'll compete, and it's interesting. So yeah.
Yep. I would point out that in 2018, like you said, he had a very good year. In 2018 year, but I do want to point out that against left-handed pitching in particular in AAA, he hit 330 with a 402 on base and a 538 slugging. So those are obviously very good numbers. against lefties. And in Double A against left-handed pitching, he hit 367, 424, 700. Now, granted, he also crushed right-handed pitching in Double A. But again, in Triple A, the numbers are a bit wider. And you're talking about 70 points in batting average versus lefties as opposed to righties. About 80 points in on base percentage and about 50 points in slugging. So this guy's hit left-handed pitching. Makes me wonder if maybe he's like possible platoon. Could he DH some against lefties? Could he, play first base if the Mariners Healy? Could he play first base with Vogelbach if that's what they're trying to do? I think he gives them a lot of options. But like you said, at the end of the day, if he comes to spring training and he doesn't produce, they can just waive him, DFA him, or maybe even send him down. Not quite sure how that whole thing works out. But yeah, it's no risk. And if he can hit left-handed pitching and play a little bit of everywhere, then he's a decent utility guy. So, and that's fine.
Yeah. It's very interesting because you don't see a lot of utility players with a significant amount of power. He hit 14 home runs over his year in Double A and Triple A. So that's pretty interesting to see. And yeah, I think interesting is probably the best word to describe him. And yeah, we'll just see what happens, honestly.
Yeah, he's probably one of the sneaky guys you want to watch in spring training. But other than that, not much to say. Like I said, there's no risk. So, I mean, I'm of the belief that there is no such thing as a bad 1-year deal. I am also of the belief that there is no such thing as a bad minor league deal, which is essentially what this is, because the money is so irrelevant. You can DFA him or whatever and not lose anything. So it'll be interesting to watch him. I am curious though, because like you said, it is rare for them to hand out a major league contract to a minor league player, but we'll see where that goes. But yeah, you guys really don't want to hear us talk about Dylan Moore. No offense, but I'm guessing you guys are here mostly for the James Paxton talk, and man, has there been a lot of it. So, I mean, I guess we'll just start right off the top here. The Mariners seem very, very serious about trading James Paxton, at least in our opinion. I don't want to speak for you, Ty, but I mean, this is a matter of when, not if, right?
Yeah, I think it's a matter of when, not if.
Yeah. So James Paxton is going to be traded. Here is what I can actually tell you that I know to be true. And then I also have some other things we can speculate on. The Yankees and Astros have talked to the Mariners about James Paxton. That has been widely reported by everyone. It has happened. The talks have been ongoing for more than a week. So those have definitely happened. I do know also that the Brewers have checked in with the Mariners. The Cubs have checked in with the Mariners. I also know that the Blue Jays have checked in, and the Dodgers have kind of sort of been out of this thing. And I also know that there's at least 8 to 12 teams who have at least exchanged some form of dialogue with the Mariners. Now, whether that means they've exchanged players, like ideas, probably not. But we have almost half the league checking in on James Paxton, which is good. So, Ty, I guess just overall, like, what do you think the Mariners should get for James Paxton? Like, what are you expecting?
Yeah, just to quickly add on to what you were saying, the only serious discussions that we've heard about are with the Yankees. Jason Churchill was hearing that the Mariners and Yankees were even at the point of swapping player information.
Mm-hmm.
So that's interesting. And so I'll use that to segue into what they should get for them, because I think the Yankees really line up perfectly for what the Mariners are looking for, and that's young, controllable, MLB ready or near MLB ready talent. The Yankees have Clint Frazier, Estevan Florial, Justice Sheffield, and they also have some guys that would be nice additions towards the end of the trade package, like Sonny Gray or Greg Bird. And I think that's what the Mariners are looking for here is guys that are there or they're at least close and they're controllable. Basically, if you look at the Malik Smith deal for Mike Zunino, you get Malik Smith. He's got years of control. He's making the league minimum. He's young, and that kind of fits in with Jerry DiPoto's idea of reimagining the roster instead of rebuilding it. So I think whether it's prospects that are near the top that are close to making the major leagues or they've already broken through, that's kind of the area that you should look at for the headliner, at least. Excuse me. But I also don't think that the Mariners will leave talent or value on the table. So if they do just get a prospect-laden deal with a bunch of prospects that might be 2 to 3 years off, they would also take that if that's the best offer on the table. But as you said, Colby, it's probably a matter of when, not if. I think it makes the most sense. I think Paxton, while he's been dominant, I considering his age and the injury history, even though that last year that was out of his control, and he's only got 2 years left, and he's likely going to make anywhere from 12 to 15 million next year in his final year when he's probably going to walk. I think that this is the best time for the Mariners to move on from him. I think he's one of the more attractive starting pitchers on the market. And I don't think it's unrealistic to expect a pretty nice return. I don't think that they'll get, the Eloy Jimenez's of the world and, Vladimir Guerrero's of the world. But I also don't think that it's out of the question for them to get a nice package back.
Right. It's of my belief that the Mariners are willing to be worse in 2019 than they were in 2018, which is something that was probably going to happen anyways, just when you look at kind of the luck. But I mean, I think they're willing to have a worse roster in 2019 than they had in 2018. However, I don't believe they're willing to have a worse roster in 2020 than they have in 2018. So the idea of them getting back a major league talent in the trade makes a lot of sense, and it would have to be somebody with probably more than 2 years of club control for it to make sense. But like you said, if the best deal they can get is a package of nice prospects, I think they take it because they can always take those prospects and spin them for major leaguers, which we know Jerry DiPoto has no issue doing. But I do agree. I think the Yankees make a lot of sense. Now the Yankees probably have, like, in terms of prospects who are close, they probably have the upper hand on everybody. But, it's important to remember that the Yankees also have money, so they can go out and they can sign, Patrick Corbin if they want to. They don't have to take the Mariners' offer. So it is possible that the Mariners price themselves out of the Yankees, but that doesn't mean that the Mariners aren't going to get something good from other teams. One of the other teams that was mentioned was the Houston Astros. The Astros don't have that kind of money. They're more than likely losing Dallas Keuchel. There's a decent shot that they lose Charlie Morton as well. Marwin Gonzalez is probably gone. I think Justin Verlander's in the last year of his deal.
Yep. So is Garrett Cole.
Yep. I mean, so this is a team that's
Lance McCullers is out for the year with Tommy John.
So there's possible 3 spots to fill in their rotation. They don't have the money to go get Corbin, not if they want to re-sign some of their own guys, which we assume they do. So the Astros are probably a bit stuck. So a guy like James Paxton, who fits their timeline, makes a lot of sense for them. He said, I firmly believe that Forrest Whitley is off the table, who is their number one prospect. And I think they would prefer not to move Kyle Tucker, who is definitely a major league ready guy, but he has struggled in the majors in his brief cup of coffee. But the dude has crushed the minor leagues. He's a nice prospect. So I don't know if those two are available, and without those two, I don't necessarily know that one of those two, mainly Tucker. I don't know if the Astros are going to be able to with other teams because who on the Astros major league roster would they trade in a James Paxton deal? I mean, they're not trading Springer or Altuve or Correa or Bregman. I mean, Marisnik doesn't do much for the Mariners. I mean,
there's Tyler White or Max Stassi.
Yeah, I just Tony Kemp. I mean, you kind of have that guy in Malik Smith already.
Yeah, and even then, he's not a headliner, so he's like a third piece.
Yeah, and again, you start going through the names. Jordan Alvarez, the dude can hit, but he is big, and he's probably going to outgrow left field. So he's a first base only type of guy, not exactly the flexibility Dipoto wants. He's probably a year away. Might make his debut in 2019. A guy like Josh James, he throws hard. He made his day. He's got some major reasoning. But again, are the Astros going to part with 6 years of him for 2 years of Paxton? I don't know. You just kind of start going down the list, and there's a lot of holes to poke in the Astros as an actual trade partner. I mean,
yeah.
What do you think, Ty? Do you think the Astros are a good fit for the Mariners, or do you think there's some problems?
Yeah, I think there's for all the reasons that you brought up. I think there are a lot of problems with that. I don't get extremely excited about a potential deal with the Astros, especially if it doesn't include Forrest Whitley.
Right.
I like Kyle Tucker, but he struggled, and there are concerns about that.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if he can actually translate to the majors. I look at him and I think, I look at his numbers, in the minors and think he's, a budding superstar. But then I see him play and he looks like Colby Rasmus.
Right.
So I don't know. I wouldn't get super excited about getting Cal Tucker. And I think that the Yankees could easily outbid the Astros. And I do believe that even if the Yankees are active in the free agent market and they do get Keuchel or Corbin, that they could also get Paxton. They have to do a lot to dethrone the Red Sox, and
Yeah.
they have the capital, both financially and prospect wise, to get two significant starters this year.
Right.
So I don't think that's out of the question. But yeah, and then I look at other clubs. I look at the Brewers, I look at the Braves, I look at the Dodgers, the Nationals. I look at these other clubs, and I just think that they could all easily put together a better package than what the Astros could offer the Mariners. Because the Astros have nice pieces, but they're not the kinds of pieces that they did have a few years back. And
right, there's no Correa or Bregman in this current group of classes.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably where the Mariners would look. I don't know if they're actually going to get a guy like that in terms of like prestige as a prospect. But I agree. I think like if I look at the Astros, I think if they make a deal with the Astros, it's going to be, a big deal of like 4 or 5 50 grade guys, as opposed to, a 60 grade, a 50 grade, a 40 grade, and a major leaguer.
Yeah.
A little more. And again, I'm not saying the Astros prospects are bad. They're not. They have any number of prospects that I would love to have in Seattle. But it's just, again, it seems like that would be more of a quantity over top end quality. And I don't know if that's what the Mariners are going to want. So I can still see a deal getting done with the Astros, but like I think it'd be 4 or 5 pieces as opposed to like 3 that the Mariners really like. So I'm right there with you. I think the Astros, it makes sense. It makes sense for them to check in. I also think it makes sense for the Mariners to probably not trade him to Houston, and it has nothing to do with the fact they play in the same division. I don't care about that. Even if he did, you're going to face James Paxton, 3 times?
And also, like, you're not going to be good this year, so who cares?
Right. And so, I don't know, man. I don't see Houston as a particular fit. Like you mentioned, Atlanta makes sense. The Dodgers make some sense. They could outbid them. The Brewers make a lot of sense. I think the Phillies make sense. The Cardinals make some sense. The Blue Jays, the Nationals make sense. Even the Rays, although it seems unlikely because they're kind of going all in on their opener, makes some sense. And I said it about 4 or 5 days ago, and was mocked for it. The White Sox make sense for Paxton. And since I've said it, there's been a few people who have said, hey, maybe the White Sox. That's all speculation. Nobody actually knows that the White Sox have reached out to the Mariners, but I just think they make more of sense than Houston does. So,
and the White Sox have a lot to offer. So,
the White Sox could offer something in terms of like Astros in terms of quantity. Like here's 4 or 5 guys, but their quantity will be of higher quality than what the Astros could do.
Yeah.
I mean, like Blake Rutherford would probably be the number 1 prospect in the Mariners system. And according to MLB Pipeline, Rutherford is the number 7 prospect in the White Sox system.
Yeah.
I mean, heck, Steele Walker, by the way, great name. Love that name. He'd probably be the number 2 prospect in the Mariners system, maybe even number 1, and he's like 12th. I mean, they are so deep.
Yeah, if we're looking at prospect rankings right now and looking at Fangraphs right now, the Fangraphs does not have a single Mariner prospect in their top 131. The White Sox have 11.
So there's definitely a good deal that could be made there. And again, the thing about that is if you're the White Sox, you're not going to have to give up Eloy Jimenez. Not that you would. You're not going to give up Kopech. You're probably not even going to give up Dylan Cease. And you don't have to. That's how good your farm system is.
Yeah.
Is that
and they're probably not going to give up Madrigal, even though I love Madrigal.
Oh, I would love Nick Madrigal. I might trade Paxton for Madrigal straight up. I love that guy. But you probably not even Lewis Roberts. I mean, you might not have to you could legitimately start a package with something around like Dane Dunning, Blake Rutherford, Alec Hansen,
Jake Berger.
Yeah, Jake Berger, who we know the Mariners liked in the draft. And like what's Avisel Garcia, who they're shopping.
Yeah.
You just gave up nothing from your top 5 and a right fielder you don't want, and you get probably the best pitcher that's available on the trade market this year. And you haven't even really in your farm system. I mean, and like we said, the reason I brought up the White Sox is because there are reports that they are interested in both Bryce Harper and Manny Machado.
Yeah.
And that's not a move you make if you're not planning to win in 2019 and 2020. Now, whether or not they
great opportunity right now.
Yeah, because the Central is down.
Indians are selling.
Yeah, the NL Central or the AL Central is not good. The White Sox have a ton of young, promising players. Yeah, it makes sense to push your timeline up. And if they go and they sign Bryce Harper or Manny Machado, then they absolutely need to follow it up by trading for guys like James Paxton, because that means they're saying our window is right now. So the White Sox, to me, they make a lot of sense. Do I think it's likely? No, I don't. I'll throw that out there. But just in terms of fit and timelines and all that, the White Sox might make as much sense as the Yankees, maybe even more so. So Yeah, I'm just throwing them. Ty, is there another team that you like in terms of fit and prospects that we haven't talked about yet?
I
I
don't
know you
know.
mentioned the Braves.
Yeah, it's got to be the Braves, right?
The
It's
Braves are interesting though, because I honestly, I'll let you talk Paxton in a minute here, but I think the Braves would be like a great fit for like Mitch Haniger or Edwin Diaz.
Yeah.
I don't know if I see a deal for Paxton that the Braves would take. I mean, because they have so much young pitching. Do they need James Paxton?
That's
And
true.
yet, but we know they have talked to the Mariners about Paxton.
Yeah.
So I mean, they're clearly interested. So I don't know. What do you think a package for Paxton looks like from the Braves, or at least give us some names to watch?
I like Tuki Toussaint. Uh, um, but then they also have their top three starting pitching prospects in Soroka, Anderson, and Wright. So one of those guys could also be possible. But it's hard. It's hard to look at their farm system because they are just as deep as any team in the league. Yeah, they have a really nice catching prospect, William Contreras. I really like, who's actually kind of similar to Wilson Contreras. Funny enough, with their names being so similar. I also like Christian Pache. I like, God, I like all their players really. Colby Allard. God, their farm system is so deep, and
Austin Riley.
yeah, Austin Riley is another great one. God, yeah, it's.
Joey Wentz, Kyle Muller, William
Yeah,
Contreras. I mean,
yeah, Bryce Wilson is another one.
yep. I like Tristan Beck a lot.
Yeah, Tristan Beck was a guy that I really liked for the Mariners in the draft last year.
Patrick Weigel. He's
Yeah,
got some good ups. I mean, yeah, there's a ton.
yeah,
It's
and
pretty
then
much the Braves have the best system in Major League Baseball. I think certainly the best crop of pitching prospects. I don't think that's even really debatable.
yeah, and I mean, like we said that the White Sox have a deep farm system, especially in comparison to the Mariners. All right, so the White Sox had 11 players in the top 131 for Fangraphs. The Braves have 12.
Yeah, so two really good systems who both have either a fit or um, a confirmed interest in James Paxton.
Yeah.
Which is why I think a lot of fans will be shocked by the return that James Paxton gets around baseball, and a lot of Mariner fans will be disappointed. That's always been my kind of prediction. But I mean, when you talk about guys who are interested in Paxton, we're talking about teams that have legit farm systems and also have young players like the Mariners want who have some major league seasoning. So I think Paxton is going to get quite a bit more than what the average fan in baseball thinks, but I think he's probably still going to get less than what would make Mariner fans happy.
Yeah, I think I think the return or the expected return should be just a little bit below what the Rays got for Chris Archer, because I think a part of that was also just the Pirates being desperate and horrible. So,
Right.
But yeah, I think that's a very realistic bar to set there.
Sure.
And I think it's one that at least 3 or 4 teams can meet realistically, maybe more, depending on who wants to get involved and play ball. So we'll see. But it's exciting because I believe that Paxton's more valuable off of this team than he is on it at this point.
Right.
And
Right.
and I think realistically, even if the return is a bit less than what the Rays got for Archer, the Rays got for Archer, I still think that's going to be more valuable to you than anything James Paxton would give you over the next few years. And listen, I love James Paxton. I was there for his no-hitter. He's given me great memories, especially over the last year. But, I'm a realist, especially when it comes to the Mariners. And, I'm more excited about the idea of what we could get for him than what he could do for the team this year.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah, again, it makes sense to trade James Paxton. I know a lot of people are, well, wait till the deadline. Value might be higher. Maybe, but what if he gets hurt? I mean, he's a pitcher after all, and he's never had any issue with his elbow, aside from getting hit by a line drive, or his shoulder, again, besides getting hit by a line drive. I mean, he's never had any structural problem with either of those. And you're going to throw him out there now to try and maybe get an extra, like, B- level prospect out of it? No, you trade him now. He's got 2 years left, 2 full years left, which is a lot more valuable than 1.5. His value is at an all-time high. And again, if you're not competing to win a World Series in 2019, then it doesn't make any sense to have him, because if it doesn't happen, then you have 1 year to win a World Series before James Paxton goes on the free agent market. It just doesn't make sense. And you're so far behind everybody else. You have to trade James Paxton, and it has to be this winter. And, that will probably eventually lead to us saying the same about Alex Colomé. It'll probably eventually lead to us saying the same about Mike Leake. I don't know. I think the Mariners are going to be very, very busy this offseason. I think it'll be a lot of trades. And I think James Paxton, I will say this before we exit the Paxton talk. Not that we couldn't spend more than, a couple hours talking about it, but we just don't have that. We don't have news to give you guys. But I will say that the prospects you get in a Paxton trade, don't get too attached, because there's a very real possibility that Dipoto flips those for major leaguers with, in their 0-3 arbitration setting, pre-arb guys. Don't be shocked if he does that. So, I guess we'll just leave it at that. Like I said, the Cubs, the Reds, the Rockies, the Astros, the Dodgers, the Brewers, the Yankees, St. Louis, and Toronto have all touched base at the very least with the Mariners. The Nationals, the Angels, the Rays to a certain extent, and the White Sox all make a lot of sense for Paxton. So you're talking about possibly half the teams in baseball looking at this guy. So it's going to happen. And you know what? Like I said, it'll be sad, but also it'll be exciting. And, when it happens, we'll probably spend a good hour and a half talking about what it means. But right now, that's all the news we have for you guys. So we're going to leave it at that.
Yeah. And also, for the people that have been asking us if we're going to break the trade, probably not.
No. In fact, I will say absolutely not.
Yeah. So, no.
Yeah.
If you're looking for info, look elsewhere.
Yeah. Again, like I have very limited knowledge of what's going on. I probably have a little bit more than the average person, but when I say a little bit, I mean a little bit. Yeah. So if you're waiting for us to break the news before anybody else, sorry. We'll know about the James Paxton trade probably right when you will. Yeah. Right when you do. So, but like I said, we'll get
stick to your Rosenthals and your Morosi's.
Yep. Stick to those guys. Jeff Passan's really good too. Yeah. Obviously Buster only. Stick to the guys who do this for a living. We're speculators mostly. Those guys are newsmen, so follow them.
And don't listen to Jim Bowden.
Yeah, Jim Bowden's probably the one guy you can trust us before you trust Jim Bowden. He's been wrong a lot, and particularly about the Mariners. But whatever. I mean, it's
Remember
like
Mariners were close on Ozuna.
Yeah, I do. he's basically the Ian Rappaport for the Seahawks. Like anything he says about your team, ignore until you have a second source because it's probably garbage. But anyways, so that'll wrap up the James Paxton talk. Before we go, I do want to, I guess we do want to remind you guys that we are in the midst of our off-season simulation here at Fansided. In fact, free agency bids kicked off about 15 minutes ago as we are recording. It's been a lot of fun. So, Ty, why don't you go ahead real quick and tell everybody listening what the sim's about, and what we as representatives are kind of looking to do.
Yeah, so basically we're huge nerds.
Yeah.
And we're pretending to be the general managers of the Seattle Mariners. So basically every team blog for the MLB division of Fansided is joining in on this, and the site experts of each and every one of those blogs are representing their teams. And basically, we communicate with one another, make trade offers, complete trades. As Colby said, the free agent bidding period has just begun. So for the next 2 days, a bunch of us will be making offers on some free agent guys, and yeah, so it's been a lot of fun. And what we're looking to do, representing the Mariners, is basically what we did a bit of in our off-season plan, and that's to be open to everything.
Mm-hmm.
And keep our ears to the ground. And we've listened to offers on Edwin Diaz, James Paxton, and we're just looking to make this team better, not just at the top, but throughout the organization. And just giving the Mariners the best way to compete in 2019 and beyond. And that does involve potentially trading James Paxton, which you may hear about in a couple days. You never know.
Yeah. And like you said, we gotten offers on Edwin Diaz already. We've had a few people ask us about Mitch Haniger. And basically when we tell them they would have to blow our doors off, they kind of we've gotten 2 inquiries on Gene Segura, kind of the same thing. Basically anybody with more than 2 years of control is kind of tough to get. Mm-hmm. But your guys like your Paxton, your Colome, we've shopped those guys pretty hard. Mike Leake, we've shopped. We've already made 4 trades, one of which we got a guy who we are actively shopping as well. We've even gotten, this is how crazy the sim is right now, guys. We've even gotten interest in Robinson Cano and Kyle Seager. So I don't think we're actually going to trade those guys, just to try and keep some level of realism. But, like I said, we're listening on everything, guys. So if you say, hey, you should really consider trading Kyle Lewis for this, guess what? We probably already have. We've probably talked about that. We've been the most active team on the trade market right now. We still have Paxton in our back pocket, but I think we're getting close on a deal there. And then after that, I think probably Colome will be our next priority in terms of trades. But we are definitely listening on Edwin Diaz. Like I put the poll out in the field last night, and most of you guys want us to see what we can get for Diaz and trade him. And since it's a sim and it doesn't really matter, we just might. So, but yeah, we're definitely listening on everybody, guys. We'll keep you posted on what's going on. We'll probably have daily updates on the website. And then after this ends on Friday evening, we'll probably do a big write-up of this is all the moves we made. This is why we did it, blah, 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 blah. So it's a lot of fun for us. Hopefully it's fun for you guys. And yeah, just be sure you check the website every night, probably around 5:30, 6 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. It's Pacific Standard Time now. Is it standard? Yeah, is it daylight time or no? It's Pacific Standard. Whatever. That's just me not knowing the difference between PST and PDT. It'll be in the evening. It'll be dark. before you read our updates, and they might spill into the next day. But we'll do our best to keep you updated on social media. Make sure you guys follow us on Twitter at Sodo Mojo FS. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram. Just search Sodo Mojo. We have a Discord channel, which I will leave the link in the description below. Just click the link and you'll be taken to our channel. You'll get an invite to become to our channel. We'll put you in as a True Blue member, which gives you access to the general chat. And it's something that we may use to let you guys know what we're doing in the sim before we put it on Twitter and things like that. So be sure you join the Discord and hopefully build a community there of people who want to talk about the Mariners. And that we're certainly in that group. So.
And just to give a little bit of a taste of what we might be doing in the sim, we've freed up quite a bit of money, and right. We might be a tad bit aggressive in free agency. We'll see.
Yep, I wouldn't rule anything out except for Bryce Harper. We're not going to be bidding on Bryce Harper.
Unless he gets lowballed so hard by everyone, we're not going.
Breaking news, he's not. So. Yeah. But yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun, guys. Like I said, we're going to try and stick with as much realistic Mariner side as we can. But at the end of the day, it's a sim. It's fun. If we see something that we think makes the team better or an opportunity to add value, we're going to take it, whether we think Jerry Dipoto would or not. So it'll be a lot of fun. So just be sure you guys keep an eye out for that. In fact, we'll probably have our first round of news in about 3 or 4 hours before you get that. Cool. So be sure you guys check that out. Anyways, thank you very much. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast. Visit the website, sodomojo.com. We have a ton of good stuff out right now. A lot about James Paxton. Because, I mean, hey, that's the biggest news in baseball right now. A lot about James Paxton. A few other things about what rebuilding versus reimagining means. Lots of good stuff on there, so be sure to check it out. From all of us here at sodomojo.com, this is Colby Padnode signing out, and I'll see you guys in another life.
Peace.